Despite what their moms told them, they just aren't talented enough for radio. Unfortunately, anyone can have a show these days. Sean.
Well, I'm pretty hard to figure out sometimes. In fact, I can't even figure myself out sometimes, so don't you try to.
Joe.
You're an idiot. And really a disloyal person.
This is the Cuse Militia. Those two unapologetically biased, orange-blooded homers, Sean and Joe.
It's the most bullshit thing I've seen in 30 years.
Welcome, orange men and ladies. Happy Tuesday. This is the Cuse Militia with Sean and Joe for the Believe Entertainment Network at Cuse Militia on the socials. Go there, join the militia live on X Spaces for the fan feedback segment of each post-game show. And if you want to get tapped into that, go ahead. If you follow us already, I think you have to do something as far as notifications, and if you want to be notified when we go live, which, I mean, it could be any time on Sunday, usually, day after the game. So,
yep.
Anyway, Joe's back safely in, what do you call that, Central North Carolina, Joe? Is that Central North Carolina?
I would call it that.
God's country, Central North Carolina. And we're here to talk about Syracuse hosting the Yellow Jackets in the Dome this Saturday at noon. The 1-0 Orange and hosting the 2-0 Yellow Jackets. And, a little bit to talk about.
Yeah.
And it doesn't all revolve around our next opponent, but our next opponent's opponent and their opponents. So, because it is, technically going into week 2, it's still one of those things that you don't have, like, for me anyway, I'm not a football genius. Never claimed to be, so it's okay. But I can't tell a whole lot about any of these teams because I think I'm more confused than the people who are involved with doing these preseason rankings in the rankings now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's a little weird this year. So, any opening thoughts, Joe, before we go ahead and start this? And of course, we will tell you what we think and what we know, and maybe a little bit about what we don't know, acting like we know it, and then we'll get into your picks and we'll give you our picks as well. Go ahead, Joe.
I mean, opening thoughts as far as the ACC this week. I mean,
whatever you got.
Yeah, that's kind of where it's all over the place. It looks to me like the teams you thought were going to be good may not be. I don't want to just claim Clemson is not good just because they got, smoked by Georgia.
That game was 6-0 though in the half.
That's true. That's fair. Right. So, I can't really judge them for that. And then you have a whole bunch of other teams that played some, D1 AA schools. So that, again, is hard to really judge. North Carolina, they had a big win against Minnesota, but they lose their starting quarterback with a broken leg for the season. So, see what happens there. But, I think the biggest thing has got to really be
Florida State.
Florida State. I was surprised Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech lost to Vanderbilt in overtime, and their starting quarterback went down. I don't know how long he's going to be down. I don't know if they would have won if he stayed in there. But, yeah, man, Florida State, dude.
Florida State's got me so confused about this game against Georgia Tech that, I've got a preview ready, kinda, but this was before I watched that game last night in DJ Uiagalelei. If you say it fast and confident, it comes out right. Look, man, 3 teams in 3 years. Joe, you mentioned he did good at Oregon State, which is true, but struggled at Clemson, struggling now with.
Well, it doesn't have great defenses either, so.
Well. Also not throwing great throws. He's a quarterback. That's like the main part. And he's struggling.
That was tough to watch. Honestly, like when you really look back at it, you got Boston College, who again, they got that slippery, Castellanos quarterback.
Castellanos, yeah.
He's slippery, and I remember last year, I bet Boston College plus 17 because last year Boston College kind of gave them a little bit of a run for their money, and Florida State had a better team. So, you have Castellanos and you got the running back there, Robichaud, but then they had that Florida State transfer that kind of ran all over them. yeah, I mean, you just were kind of waiting to see, like, okay, was Georgia Tech really that good? Was it a fluke? Or, and albeit, I mean, Boston College looked good. Their defensive line looked good. I don't know if you saw George Rook's, legacy that chose Boston College over Syracuse, but he looked pretty good. So, I mean, they looked good, but was it Florida State that made them look good? I'm still confused. Like, that's where you're at after week one, right? And just like anybody else, it's like, well, now how good is Georgia Tech? I mean, is really where your mind is going to go with that. You know, I felt awful because Florida State, I'm not going to say I felt awful. They've been great for a long time. You know, I mean, they were an injury away from basically making the college football playoffs last year.
Yeah, they were. They were in. I mean, really.
And now you look at it and you had fans booing. I mean, I was wondering, they were calling for the backup. I was wondering if the coaches was going to, pull the trigger, and he didn't. And at the end of the game, Norvell blamed it on himself. But I don't know, man. I mean, he can blame it on himself, but I think we all kind of saw some stuff. And I mean, it's just, I hate to throw shade to anybody, but for somebody who, has that type of hype and you see him in commercials and, all the NIL deals and going to Clemson, Oregon State, now Florida State, like, I mean, a coach can't make you complete a pass.
I thought, right. I mean, dude, wide open in the end zone. I could have hit that dude in the corner.
And there's a couple guys that dropped some balls too. There was some stuff like that. But
I understand you playing devil's advocate here, and I totally agree. Right. However,
right.
He's supposed to lead the team. He's the leader of the offense, and he's got to do better. He can't hold people accountable for dropping balls if he's half the time not throwing them right.
Fair.
So, and that's nothing against him. I stuck up for that dude when he was at Clemson. So,
yeah. And it actually looked like he went to Oregon State and kind of, revitalized his career a little bit.
I mean, I didn't think you could transfer.
Of course you can. It's the wild, wild west, buddy.
I thought you could do the one-time transfer. Then if you did it again, you had to sit out. That's when you had to sit out.
No, there's no rules for that.
There's no more rules for that. Okay.
That's what we want to happen.
Okay. Is that what we were talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. Well, I'll tell you. Not a huge fan of the transfer. Okay? Because
doesn't always work out, eh?
Not only that, but I mean, what's stopping a guy from pulling the transfer?
Nothing.
I mean, that's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to me that that's allowed. They have lost the handle on this whole thing. The inmates are running the asylum, and it is.
I don't blame them.
You don't blame who?
DJ.
I don't blame them if they're letting them do it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. If it's not,
well, I mean, you have to understand too. I mean, Oregon State and Washington State are the only two teams left in the Pac-12. They were the two teams that were left behind. So, realistically, who knows what kind of NIL money was available there, and whether that was who they're going to play. Right? They're essentially playing as like independents this year. So,
well,
I can understand him wanting to.
Florida State's got the coaching, and I think they have the discipline to turn things around. However, like I said last show, they have the talent. And like I said last show, I don't think you can really judge anything before we played 4 games. Like 4 games, that's 25% of the way through. Actually, it's 33% of the way through. And I feel like you can get a good gauge by that point. So,
yeah, teams that did impress me: Pittsburgh, Louisville, Boston College this week.
I didn't see anything Pitt, but yeah, I was impressed by Boston College, but again, not sure. That team hasn't changed much other than Castellanos another year in and more experience, but they looked like a well-oiled machine on offense.
They did, didn't they?
Yeah.
And honestly, too, I mean, we talk about it all the time. It's so funny how this works, and there's so much turnover now that, like, we talked about it earlier in the season. Oh, we got the easier schedule. We don't got to play this team. We don't got to play that team. Well, I mean, this might have been
like you might have wanted to play Clemson in Florida State.
Well, I don't know about Clemson, but Florida State, yeah.
I want to play Clemson every year. That's traditionally how it goes, man. I'm fine with that.
No, we're just used to it, but I'm actually okay with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, after our fan base tried to turn it into some kind of rivalry, and then we just
rivalries are gone with this schedule.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah, well, they tend to keep the Pitt-Syracuse rivalry alive.
Well, we play Pitt-Boston College every year.
Yeah, that's the rivalry you want. Or excuse me, maybe you don't want that rivalry, but I promise you need it. Especially
helps in recruiting.
Do what?
Helps in recruiting.
Well, not only that, but this is old for all of the younger cats that don't remember old school biggies. That's for us older guys. That is the nostalgia of what's left of the nostalgia in the ACC.
Yeah, well, for the younger guys who are getting recruited, that's that too, right? Because we are competing with those two teams as far as in the Northeast recruiting every single year. So if we can get those dubs, then that gives us a leg up and a talking point for Fran, right? As if he needs another one, right? But that would be, a better sell, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to ask you if you have any more opening thoughts.
I'm good.
Okay. Well, I mean, any more, like.
Why?
Going forward. I don't know.
I mean, dude, don't you think it's important to talk about what's going on in the conference other than just us?
Yeah. I think it's way too early to do a whole rundown. But yeah.
I mean, there wasn't a whole rundown. I talked about a couple teams. That's it. Didn't go deep.
Okay. It was more of a joke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, anyway.
I've had plenty of tennis
as always.
Weekend, so okay. I don't know.
All right, let's dive into this. The all-time series between Syracuse and Georgia Tech sits at 3-1 in favor of the Yellow Jackets. I think I say this every year when we play Georgia Tech, but it's hard to believe we've only played at this point 4 times. Syracuse took the last meeting of the series 37-20 back in 2020 in a fanless dome. Games that we would all love to forget. Coach of the Yellow Jackets, Brent Key, is in his second full year after finishing a partial year and then last year bringing the team to a bowl game. There's not a ton that's changed with the team really that I could see, but last year their offense finished 3rd in the ACC. Once Texas A&M transfer Haynes King got going, he showed his talent, that's for sure, and he's pretty comfortable, and he's been looking pretty comfortable for the first 2 games of the season. He's picking up right where he left off. He's a dual threat guy. He threw for 2,755 yards and ran for another 648 last year on 108 rushes. So it was that his rushing attempts, by the way, last year were good for 6 yards a carry. So pretty good and kind of a problem. So that's my worry, okay, because we saw what happened last week. So, and like I said, so far this year he's kind of picked up where he's left off. So, same could be said for the leading rusher, Jamal Haynes. He finished with 7 TDs on the ground last year, and he's already got 3. And he's firing on all cylinders too. So the defense, however, last year they finished in total yards allowed. Last year they finished last, allowing 255 yards a game. It seems that they've improved a little bit so far this year, holding Florida State to 98 yards on the ground on 31 carries in Dublin. But again, a little confused by some of the stats that we have coming out of any Florida State game at the moment. So Kyle Efford, is it Efford? Kyle Efford? He leads the team. Is it Efford?
I would say Efford.
Okay. I would say Efford too, but it sounded weird.
Yeah, it sounds like effort. Right.
Yeah.
He's put a lot in this year.
Yeah, he's kind of a problem. He leads the defense in tackles. He led him, I believe, he led him last year, and he's leading them so far this year for 2024. So, Joe, I'm hoping you can add a little bit to this. It's obviously going to be a good test for the Orange, the defense, Coach Brown, early in the season, and with the news of Marlo Wax, obviously. That's going to be It's going to be that much more, I guess, for the defense to shoulder. So it's going to come down to the way the Orange defense responds after last week and the criticism that came along with it and what they can do to step up to stop Haynes King, because he can be a problem. And if he gets going, I think that's just going to be, if they can't contain him, it's going to be a problem. I don't, however, see our offense versus our defense being a huge problem. I feel like once we get going again, I think we're going to be good. It's going to be a contest. And as of right now, the way I feel about this, unless you're going to change my mind, is that this game is going to be a little bit closer than I thought it was going to be after their first game in Dublin, even their first 2 games and our first game.
Right.
Without Florida State playing their second game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I'm at, which is neutral. I don't know, other than, well, if you look at One other thing Syracuse has on their side is that Georgia Tech went to Dublin. Then they went down the road to Georgia State. I don't know how far it is, but obviously it's an in-state on the road.
10 minutes.
Okay, and then they're coming to Syracuse, so they haven't had a home game yet. I don't think the traveling's gonna be too much, but I think it's fair enough to say that Syracuse didn't have a week 0, and they also have not left home. So I think that's advantage Syracuse.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia Tech hasn't had actual away game, right? A true away game yet.
Right, true.
Where
right.
The fans are 80+%, 90%, the opposition. And yeah, like, again, obviously watching that game yesterday, it makes you go back and it makes you look at some stuff. Obviously after 2 games, it didn't look like it's obvious that Florida State's offense isn't clicking. They're struggling. So it's hard for me to think that, Georgia Tech and Boston College have like top 10 defenses who are going to stop like a high powered Florida State offense. Right. Georgia Tech, they went and played Georgia State and, they had, I think, something like 380 yards of offense on them. And I think looking at, obviously, like Georgia Tech, for the first 2 games, really, when you look at their stats, like it's not, they run the ball, right? I mean, that's kind of what they do. I mean, Haynes King is very efficient. He's 35 of 45. He's got 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. So his QB rating is pretty high, but he's only averaging about 210 yards through the air. Really where they kill you is on the ground, where Jamal Haynes, like you said, had just 28 carries for 159 yards. Haynes King has 20 for 81. So they're averaging, about 210 yards through the air and pretty close. I mean, it's 50-50. You look at time of possession, it's 50-50. The one thing that I've noticed is through the first 2 games, they only have 1 turnover. Haynes King has, an interception. They fumbled twice, but they got him back. And their defense has only gotten 1 turnover. So I think that now when I look back at Florida State and then with Georgia State, like they're a ranked team, but their opponents kind of look underwhelming. And it's not like these dudes have blown the socks out of anybody's defense. And I think that they're about to play the best offense that they've played all year, realistically. So there's obviously
so far, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a question mark on Marlowe Wax and what we look like on offense. But, I mean, if you want to try to take a negative into a positive, the team that we just played pretty much plays kind of the same exact offense that this team does, right? So
very similar, especially the quarterback play.
Right. So I think that being able to watch this tape, being able to, I'm sure that Fran Brown, Elijah, all those guys, Nick Robinson, like I spoke about on Sunday, are not going to be happy, and they're going to go through this tape, and they're going to make the necessary adjustments. And honestly, to me, they're not good enough through the air, in my opinion, to just blow this game open. And as far as defense goes, I don't know. I'm not so sure that they're going to be able to. They're going to be able to stop us, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, right now.
Well, what's changed on the defense really that would lead you to believe they're going to be leaps and bounds better than they were? Like personnel-wise, what has changed? Because I didn't see a lot. I saw a couple exits. I think one of their leading guys last year, he graduated. So, I mean, it's hard to say. Their defense was 255 yards a game. But again, we live in an age where what happened last year doesn't mean anything.
Oh, 100%.
It doesn't mean anything anymore because your teams can flip so dramatically. The only thing that really can be a super negative is if your team turns over too many players, and being able to mesh well and be a cohesive unit could be an issue. But it's so hard to judge and so hard to plan this early in the season before we know who people are, who teams are. It's you're just kind of shooting from the hip. I mean, really, we have no idea.
Yeah. And even when you look at some of the transfers that they had coming in, none of the real top names I see, up there in the statistics wise as far as on defense. So Sure, I mean, they got better, but I mean, how much better? Because they were really bad. I really truly think that we're really in a situation where they've just played two really bad offenses.
Yeah, and let's see, they allowed Florida State to score more than Boston College did. I mean, is that that's the gauge we have, guys. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And Georgia State scored 12 points, and they only scored 35 on Georgia State. And with that said, too, I do not think that. Let me check. Yeah, Zach Pyron, who's their backup quarterback, threw one pass. So, I mean, I don't know how long he was in for. I don't have a minute count, but Haynes King led the majority of the game at starting quarterback.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, it's week 2. It's so hard to gauge where people are. Right?
It always is. It's just really hard now.
I listened to Brent Key, his presser about this, and he said he spoke to his team and was like, this week is going to be the most difficult week that we've had to endure all season, and it's not going to come down to certain plays or certain this. He's going to come down to how physical you're going to play and how much you're going to play with your heart, and just go out there and actually win and be disciplined and be tough and be physical. He sounds a lot like Fran Brown. He sounds like a no nonsense type guy, and yeah, I mean, I think that's just what they're going at. I mean, and my thing is that we talked about it in the beginning of the year when they beat Florida State. Like, oh man, do we really want them to come in? They just beat a good Florida State team. And they're going to beat Georgia State, and they're going to have all the confidence. And yeah, there's some confidence there for sure. But like, I don't think like they're sitting at a chance now where they're ranked. Where I mean, is there a possibility that they could come in like overconfident?
They'll be their trap game, Syracuse.
Well, I mean, one of them. I mean,
yeah. Well, by the way, let me correct myself real quick. They played at home last weekend.
Yeah,
this past weekend.
Well, they're right down the street. So
yeah. So anyway,
even if they played at Georgia State, they would have had more Georgia State fans there.
Yeah, and they're ranked. So we got a ranked team coming into the Dome. So right. I mean, there's got to be a little bit of excitement surrounding that. And until I have a reason not to believe that this coaching staff has the ability to drive home narratives to these guys, until they give me a reason not to believe it, I'm going to believe it. And I have to believe that just with the personality of Fran Brown, I got to believe that they're spending this week, like you said, watching any tape they got of Haynes King and what was his name? Jamal Haynes. Jamal Haynes and Haynes King.
All the
Hayneses. We got Zed Haynes too. We're gonna have three Hayneses. Okay, so they're gonna be taking a look at all that, and they're gonna definitely be driving that narrative home about, hey, look, this is our problem. This is gonna be our problem, and if we don't stop it, we may not win. But if we do stop it, we might.
Yeah, well, that's what we talked about. The whole point of that, and everybody and all the fans that came back, oh, our defense sucks. Oh, this is like the mistakes that they made are reversible, right? Like they're coachable. It's all technique. Like I said before, they tried to tackle high. They tried to strip the ball. They tried to just hit them and knock them down instead of wrap
trying
up,
to create a highlight reel. Part of it.
There was a little bit of discipline issues with gap discipline and, basically setting the edge to allow the runner to go back inside. All those things are coachable. All those things could be changed and could be coached, right? I mean, the defensive blocking below the waist, which I don't know how that is even a thing, but I'm sure they're going to go back and look at that. You remember that call?
Was that the Justin Barron call?
I don't know what call it was because I couldn't see replays. All I know is that I was in the stands and they were talking about what the call was: defense or illegal block below the waist.
Wouldn't that be offense? Illegal block below the waist?
They call defense. Well, that's why I'm so confused about it.
Okay.
I called before in my life. But whatever we did wrong in that play, I'm sure that's correctable.
Right.
I mean, that's just where I'm at right now. It's not like I think that Ohio is going to be, like we talked about it before, they're going to be a solid MAC team. That running back was that transfer from Northwestern that we talked about, that this is his last hurrah, and he wanted to prove some stuff. And they got a good transfer receiver, that Coleman Owens guy that caught a bunch of passes. So that team's going to be okay. And that was our first game. Like, this is their third game, and I still feel like Georgia Tech really hasn't been challenged. I mean, they were challenged against Florida State, but they really weren't challenged, right? I mean, they kind of beat themselves there to make it a close game near the end, but they kind of found their way through. All I know is that Georgia Tech's kicker can kick the hell out of the ball, and we're going to be in a dome. So let's not, have it to where it comes down to his damn leg.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you have Facebook pulled up? If you don't, I
do.
And you can. Okay, perfect. All right. I almost forgot this morning to ask for your final score predictions for this game, but I did remember around noon, and I'm very, very happy that caught on. So I appreciate it.
Just to give a heads up here before we start this, Syracuse, the line currently is Syracuse is a 3-point underdog, and the over/under is 62.5. So they think it's going to be
it's going to be a offensive freaking showdown, or what?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of that is based upon what they saw this past week, right? If Georgia Tech basically runs the same offense except for better, and we had a tough time stopping them, and Ohio scored 22 points. And then they saw our offense, in which we really didn't even have a first quarter. We had a bad interception, a bad hold call that could have stopped us from another touchdown. So
here's another thing, real quick. And
I think offense versus offense is what they think it's going to be.
When you go into week 0, you have to open up your playbook against Florida State. We don't know if we even opened up our playbook. I mean, I don't know how intricate the offense looked to me. It looked pretty. I mean, it looked okay. It looked pretty basic. I think that there's going to be stuff we bring to Georgia Tech, or that we give them in the dome that they may not have been able to study for yet. Maybe that's one reason why we started a little shaky. You know what I mean? Maybe we're not doing the things that this team's normally used to doing in practice. I don't know.
Right.
It's just speculation. But with that said, Georgia Tech's they can't hide anything when they go to Dublin and they play Florida State. So they could against Georgia State, I guess, but it's too late at that point.
Right.
At Level Up Luke, 38-28, good guys up against a better rushing attack. We make adjustments and hold them to the win. McCord shows chemistry with his receivers, and we have 4 different TD scores. Okay. I like that. At No Blanchard 44, 38-10. I think we stopped the run, and I think that Georgia Tech is overrated because FSU fans stink. Going to be fun. It's going to be a fun one, though. That's the thing. I want to see a good game, but I'd rather see Syracuse blow them out. But, I just don't want to have.
See, I don't like. Well, blowouts make the end of the games boring. Even if this Ohio game was a little boring, I don't mind keeping it close, but taking charge at the end of the.
I've been through enough shit from these Syracuse teams in my life. I mean, a couple blowouts just is going to add a little time to my life.
I feel Holy Cross and UConn, so
true. That's boring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's true. At Baptized by Fire 7, our buddy Dominic 27-24 Orange. McCord leads the Orange on an under 2 minute 15 second 70-yard drive for the field goal win. Okay. At our Boris 9, Syracuse 44, Georgia Tech 24. Georgia Tech can run against Syracuse, but it takes them much longer and not as easy as their other games. Keep the score much lower versus the Orange. Georgia Tech's D is no match for McCord, LeQuint, and Orange Company, and the Orange keep keep racking up the scores. Statement win. See, being that this is a ranked team now really does add something to the fold for Syracuse as a team and Fran Brown. Could you imagine getting his second game he plays, he gets a statement win beating a ranked team inside the Dome? What that would do for the fans, the whatever energy is left out there in the ether to be soaked up by fans who aren't engaged yet. I mean, I feel like 37,000 is pretty good for the Dome against Ohio, but Ohio, it's pretty good. But we spent months into basketball season still talking about football, and that was still the buzz. We did it too. Like, we ignored basketball for a while before we actually went full-throated basketball shows without talking about football. Okay? So the buzz was there. And when you really put it into perspective, 37,000 for me, I felt like it should be more. What's it hold? 53, 56? It's like some weird number like that.
So
right?
They lost some seats, so they're basically saying that we were about 5,000 away from a sellout.
So it only holds 42-ish? 43?
3-ish, something like that, yeah. Because they changed the seats.
Guys.
They don't have benches anymore. We have individual seats, so it took less, But I will tell you, it looks great. Where the student section is, I'll tell you what. I mean, that, like I said on Sunday.
Are they going to change the student section for basketball games too?
I don't know, but all I know is that I think that student section had a lot to do with holding Ohio to 2 first quarter field goals.
Good.
Because we're going towards them, and as soon as they got in the red zone, it was super loud. I was on that side too. So the Dome has changed a little bit, and I think it's for the good. But yeah, dude, I don't know. I get exactly what you're saying, and honestly, this is the good thing about this situation too is that Ohio we knew was going to try to run the clock, run this and that. When you look at Georgia Tech, they run the same kind of offense, except for both their first games. Time of possession is like 50-50. So it's good to have a team that is confident versus like in Ohio that's like, well, we got to keep it close, right? Like Georgia Tech's going to think we can do this, we can do that. They're going to have that confidence. So the one thing that we will not have to worry about, I don't think, is being able to get possessions, whether they score or not.
Here's one, I mean, I think we all know the answer, but didn't give me a prediction here, but at Jake Waz 500, would we be ranked with a win? I would say no way. Not at this point in the season. Not with Georgia Tech being 23rd. There's no possible way. However, if Georgia Tech keeps winning and we keep winning, then obviously down the road, it would be a huge. It would be a huge thing. It'd be something to hang your hat on, and who knows what else we deal with later on in the season. But that's why I think this is a huge opportunity, whether or not Georgia Tech keeps doing what they're doing. If we can win this game, it will, if there is a naysayer out there, it'll shut them up. And I don't, honestly, especially for our fan base, if they're out there, I feel like we'd hear them. I haven't heard any. Not that I can think of. Right, Joe?
No.
Not for football, anyway.
No. And they got to show up at the Dome, dude, because realistically, when you look at the schedule, this is like the perfect sell out, show out, and get that W. Because after this, we got a bye week. And then we have Stanford coming in, which Stanford didn't look great this weekend. But you'd hope that would be a sellout, being, undefeated as well. But after that, you got Holy Cross, then you're on the road to UNLV, and then you're on the road to NC State. So,
and by the way, do you think as well as I do, Marlo Wax isn't back for obviously any of those games?
No, I think we have a bye week after NC State, and then it goes into Pittsburgh. And
you think he comes back for
that would be my aim. I think it's about 7 weeks. I think that's probably fair. I think we have speculation based upon some people that we've talked to about what the injury might be. But if it was a sprain, they wouldn't go straight to 6 weeks. If it was anything worse, then it would be season ending. So it's something kind of in between, and we know it's lower body. But to me,
we know it's his lower extremity because we saw it.
So to me, I'm talking, we're not going to have Marlowe until probably the first half of the season. Get him back in Pittsburgh, hopefully.
Yeah, it's too bad, but it could be a whole lot worse. And,
yes,
that's what that comes down to. At Oil Q's, go ahead.
I was just going to say, wish the speedy recovery.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do your thing, Marlowe. I know you're going to do it.
At Oil Q's, we win 41-21 if we stop the run. Let's see. At Veteran U.S. Army, hey, give it a shout out to this cat.
That's me.
20. Is that you? That's not you.
No.
I was like, what are you doing in this thread? 24-17 Q's defense has a big game, 2 turnovers. Now, that could be huge. The turnover stuff could be huge. If
they've only had 1 turnover all year, they've been kind of lucky.
Yeah, but I mean, Georgia State. Now, Florida State's defense isn't terrible. Their defense ain't bad. Kept them in the game for a little bit. Problem is they were out there a long time.
A long time. Especially yesterday.
Yeah. At J Stories 3, 31-24 Q's. Biggest challenge is improving run defense. Okay, how will Fran respond? I think he'll excel. Hold on. Do we have any negative Nancy's in here? Here we go. At Jason is Michael. I think I'm just going to stop reading these. If they exceed a certain amount of characters, I think I'm done. I bleed orange, but I think Ohio exposed our run defense. Combine that with our captain out, and it's not a good matchup for us. 34-25 B guys. I see what you did there, Jason. Look, coming. What do you got? You got some weird stuff? You're making a weird face.
It's not weird. I mean, I got 10, but a lot of them are, I haven't got
Facebook
11
sucks.
Georgia Tech, 37-2. Dominic said Facebook sucks.
We did Twitter, Dominic. Do we have to do Facebook, Dominic, too?
Well, Facebook Dominic just says Facebook sucks, just like what you just said.
Okay.
How about that?
Exactly.
So, top fan Keith Williams Jr.
We should have top fans in Twitter so we can hit that button more.
He was one of them, but 24-21 Cuse, as long as we can slow down the run. If not, it's going to be a long day. Nadal, not a top fan.
Oh, Nadal, get your shit together, buddy.
31-17 Cuse, trust Brown to fix the run defense in a week or die trying. And the last one with any type of meat, because all the other ones are just scores, so it's the only one I'm going to read. It's our boy, top fan, Andy Stewart. This game shows a few things, what it means to have an elite college quarterback in Kyle McCord, who will be the deciding factor. How well Fran coaches and comes up with different strategies on beating teams, and that our secondary is extremely good. We load the box and cause Tech to throw, which results in 2 picks. We slow down our offense and pound the ball down their throat, and Kyle makes the big-time throws when needed. 27-20 Syracuse.
Okay. At McAfee, Chris feels like offense will score at will, but defense will bend without breaking. 38-30. And then I've got one more here. I want the meat. We get enough now, or I can be really, really picky. At Young Owie, 35-20 Georgia Tech. As much as I hope we wipe the floor with them, I think they have the edge as of right now. Okay, well, look. 24 hours ago, I would have said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny how watching an opponent of an opponent will really drastically change your mind. Florida State at home? Come on, guys. You gotta throw something better out there than that. Not great. And they'll get it together. They'll be a force. I don't think they're playoff material, but they'll still be a problem for people. Eventually. So, okay, Joe, that brings us to this. It's our time to pick. I decided.
You won last week, right?
I did. 38-10 takes it. And David will let us know every Spaces segment that
Got one more touchdown.
Who won? Yeah, look. I hit Syracuse's on the nose. That's what helped me.
Bro, they would have caught one more touchdown, then yeah.
Yeah, well, but they didn't. I mean, there's a lot of ifs. You can make all kinds of ifs.
Butts, candy and nuts. Oh, Merry Christmas.
Exactly.
Ho, ho, ho.
Exactly. All right. I don't have a score written down yet, which is not like me. Normally, I do this before we start. But
so are you punting or are you receiving or kicking off?
I'm gonna receive, dude, because I may just need to talk through this. So
this is how you screw me.
Well,
because literally, I had 38-13, and I just bumped a touchdown just because last week.
You don't have to do that though. If you would have kept your 38-13, you'd have won.
I don't have to.
Well, I mean, look.
Principle.
Great minds think alike. We would have both nailed Syracuse's score.
Dude, I was a holding call away from hitting it. So.
Oh, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, too.
Oh, here we go.
I mean, what the hell, dude? Come on. That's not what happened. Okay. So look, like I said, man, until I have a reason to question what this team can do week to week, just hear me out for 1 second. At some point last year, we knew what we were going to get. Despite the circumstance, we still just knew what we were going to get week to week, right? The year before that, we kind of knew what we were going to get week to week. We knew those things didn't get fixed. Pre-snap penalties, run defense, which we're still working on, okay? The offensive line. These things remained the same for years.
Well, they played good.
The offense... No, I'm not talking about this year.
Oh, you're talking about Pat.
Yeah. No,
okay.
And that's exactly where I was going to go first. The offensive line looks much better. Now... They got a little bit different of an opponent, right? We got an ACC team coming in. They want to rip our heads off, okay? They're ranked 23rd in the country right now. They went to Dublin, and I don't even think that's a fair game for either team, but someone's got to come out there a winner, right? So went to Dublin and won, and then came back to the States and did the same thing in their home stadium. But I just feel like I have the faith that this team is going to focus, like I said, on stopping the issues that they had last week. And the issues that they had last week are the issues that sit in front of us right now with the new team coming in, only better, like you said, Joe. Just a bigger, stronger, faster opponent doing the same thing. So right. I'm going to say that this game's close, and I like Dom's prediction. What was Dom's prediction? He had a lower scoring game, though. I don't think it's going to be that low scoring. What did he say? 27-24, he said on Twitter, though. Oh, man. Gosh. I'm going to go 31. Damn it. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm going to go. Yeah. I'm going to go 31. I already said it. I'm going to stick with it. 31-28. And your kicker doesn't even come into play.
Okay.
Or maybe he does and they get a 2-point conversion somewhere. I don't know. But that's my score. I think it's going to be close. If Syracuse wins this thing, I think it's going to be close.
Okay. I am going to go.
And I'm not playing the game anymore this year where I just keep my belief without evidence going. Okay? That ends as soon as it ends. That's when it ends. I'm not doing this every week where the cake is still baking. The freaking cake is turned into the Christmas vacation turkey. You know what I'm saying?
The new recipe, baby.
When Clark
new recipe, new ingredients.
When Clark cuts into the turkey and it just goes, yeah, that's the cake. So, anyways.
Oh man, going back and forth a little bit because of what our offense can do.
It's tough to pick a score because, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but are they going to score more than they scored on Ohio?
They might.
Yeah, I mean, because they only had the ball for a minute in the first quarter.
I know.
So they got to start strong and they got to be physical. That's the thing. They didn't start strong and they weren't physical last week.
Kind of had this the whole time. 34-27, Syracuse.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you got the kicker playing a part.
Mm-hmm.
Or they miss, or either they miss one or he hits a couple field goals. Okay. Fair enough. That's good.
I mean, I do think that these defenses are going to struggle. If you look back at last year, we scored a decent amount of points against Georgia Tech when we didn't. It was Dan Villari and LaQuinn Allen.
Yeah.
So, it's just kind of where I'm at. They definitely, this is going to be the best quarterback and the best. No, I don't want to say that. Florida State has good talent around him, but if your quarterback can't get him the ball, then what are you going to do, right? So I think this is going to be the biggest challenge as far as Georgia Tech defensively that they faced all year. And, Florida State still scored, 21 points?
Florida State scored, 21.
Yeah, so I think I'm good with that.
And,
And I think we fix some stuff on defense, and we allow them to score a little bit more, but not like a lot more. I don't think they're crazy on. They really got one receiver that's really gone off. Obviously they're a Division I ACC team, so other people can step up. But I think our secondary is up for the task.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I believe so too. So, by the way, as you mentioned, the last meeting was what? 31-22?
Yeah.
Yeah. Second to last game of the year. So it's a very similar team. So doesn't mean much.
Obviously better, but did they get better than what we got? It's just obviously they had more returning, so they probably have a bigger core of players that are used to playing with each other. But I think we brought in more talent, and I think that we kind of lowered that gap of that talent level. And plus, like I said, we were running for Villari and the damn Wildcat. So,
right.
We shall see. But I'm betting Syracuse +3.
Well, it was, by the way, last year was what? Because I keep screwing this up. We lost last year. You just did better than we thought we were going to do.
Right.
And that's not saying much. Because at that point in the year, we already knew what we had. And we kind of had a bad feeling about it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
It just felt like, to me, like Saturday, the first drive in the first quarter was so slow. And then they just started hitting. And it's just like, it happened just like that second. Like, you don't think they're going to get better. It's almost like they're just getting started.
Right.
That's what it looked like, dude, to me. We didn't even try to run the ball like that early on. And then, LaQuinn ends up just almost getting 100 yards, a quiet 100 yards, while Trevor Pena gets 3 touchdowns and Arande gets and was just wide open all the time.
Yeah, that's going to be the matchup is both offenses.
Ross Simmons.
And I think our defense is better than theirs. And I think that they just fix a couple of small things and they could be in really good shape. Obviously Marlo Wax plays a huge role in all of this if he's there, but we have the depth and the talent, I think, to be able to go in there and not skip a beat, and he's going to be on the sideline doing his thing. So, anyway.
Well, that's why some of that stuff, when you talk about getting loud and selling out the crowd, it might only be 43, but dude, it's loud in there.
I know it's loud.
Like Kyle McCord had his show today, and he was like, it's a different kind of noise because it has nowhere to go.
It's a reverberation, yeah.
He was calling for a sellout, and if you can get those kind of things, I mean, Georgia Tech, they run an offense to where one penalty or just one bad play for like tackle for loss, like that could ruin that drive. So, and it just, again, just pray for Marlowe to come back and be healthy and get in the training room and do what he can, because he had a great – I mean, he was named linebacker of the week in the ACC. Yeah, dude, he had six tackles, two tackles for losses, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble before he even got hurt. So,
yeah, he's getting it.
Yeah, we're losing, but I think that we have good depth, and the only thing that I wish is that we had maybe an easier game in the middle to kind of ease these guys in. But hey, I think that Fran and Elijah will get them right, because I don't think those guys are going to allow them to. Like Fran Brown said in his press conference, he said, you either coach it or you allow it. He said, and I didn't coach it, so I guess I allowed it. Like, that's where he came from. So they're going to be hearing some stuff, and I think we're going to see a different kind of defensive line and in defensive front this week.
Okay. Well, that's good. Look, Joe's back in town, so
I don't give a shit what you or anybody else thinks or writes.
Oh, I always do that.
Wow, thanks, man.
Hold on.
Thanks, Jim. I'm back in town.
I'm taking that out. I don't know why I always hit that's the bottom button over here, and I know better because I've done it.
It's fine if you keep it in. I mean, I know how you really think.
I'm not keeping it in. I hate hitting the wrong button. It's irritating to me. 5130. All right, so Joe's back in town. We shouldn't have an issue getting here. Not that we had an issue before, but now it's not even a question. So
I don't give a shit what you or anybody else thinks.
Golly.
You got to keep this in. This is hilarious.
No, I'm not keeping it.
Dude, come on.
No.
I don't give a shit about what you or anybody thinks, Sean.
Run the line, though. All right. There we go. That's going to do it for us. Look, we appreciate all of you for getting in on the socials and joining us and giving your predictions and adding to the content. We appreciate it. We'll be back here Sunday. For Joe, I'm Sean. We're out.
Peace.